A book lies open on a table. The room is quiet. A lamp casts a small pool of amber light across the page. The reader has stopped halfway down a paragraph. His hand rests against his cheek. The sentence has resisted him, so he reads it again. Nothing moves. No notification appears. No counter rises. No public evidence records the event. Somewhere, a publisher's quarterly report remains serenely unaware that a human being has encountered a difficult thought. From the market's point of view, almost nothing is happening. From the point of view of literature, everything is. The trouble begins with a simple fact. The market does not care whether a book enters the soul. It cares whether the book leaves the warehouse. That sentence sounds harsher than it is. A warehouse must empty. Printers must be paid. Editors require salaries. Authors prefer groceries to noble starvation, a prejudice shared by most people who have tried noble starvation. Distribution costs money. Bookshops occupy real buildings, where landlords maintain their ancient devotional practice of collecting rent. The commercial machinery surrounding books is real, necessary, and often admirable. It has made books abundant. It has placed editions of Homer, Dante, Shakespeare, Austen, Dostoevsky, and Proust within reach of ordinary people who would once have struggled to own more than a Bible, an almanac, and a few inherited volumes with cracked spines. This is a genuine human achievement. A man can now purchase much of the Western canon for less than the price of a weekend trip. The great dead arrive in cardboard boxes. They wait on the porch while he is at work. Yet abundance changes the structure surrounding the feast. A publisher cannot remain solvent by persuading a reader to buy one demanding novel and spend the next year reading it twice. The publishing house requires turnover. It needs the reader to finish, buy again, follow announcements, anticipate new releases, discuss upcoming titles, and regard each publication season as a fresh emergency. The perfect customer is always nearly finished. He reads quickly enough to remain hungry. He follows literary news. He recognizes cover designs. He knows which books are arriving in autumn. He has pre-ordered 3 of them before completing the 2 on his nightstand, while the 6 beneath the nightstand have quietly formed a provisional government. The reader becomes economically useful when he behaves like a consumer. No secret committee had to design this outcome. The mechanism arose from ordinary pressures. Sales are easy to count. Comprehension is difficult to count. A publisher knows how many copies were purchased in a week. It cannot know whether one copy altered a marriage, clarified a vocation, exposed a lie, steadied a grieving man, or gave language to an experience that had remained shapeless for 20 years. The market records the transaction as success. Literature waits for a slower verdict. A reader who spends 4 months with the brothers Karamazov appears inactive within this system. He generates no repeat sale. He adds no fresh release to his cart. He may even reread several chapters, an act of commercial treason committed in slippers. He has become dormant, which is another way of saying that he may finally be reading. The book trade therefore trains him to move. The training rarely appears as an order. Nobody leans across a desk and says, "Please hurry through Tolstoy so we can sell you something with embossed lettering." The pressure arrives through atmosphere. New releases crowd the shelves. Reviews appear before the public has had time to absorb the work. Promotional interviews explain the book's meaning before readers encounter its sentences. Special editions multiply. Covers arrive in seasonal colors. Adaptation rumors precede judgment. The object enters public consciousness before the text enters anybody's mind. The meaning comes pre-assembled. The reader is told what emotional experience to expect. He is told what moral position the book represents. He is told which kind of person will enjoy it, which political tribe will praise it, which neighboring titles resemble it, and which visible identity can be acquired through ownership. The book becomes a package. Its cover, sprayed edges, color palette, author persona, online discussion, collector's edition, and anticipated television adaptation gather around the prose like a brightly dressed court around an exhausted king. The text remains present, of course, several hundred pages of it, yet the surrounding commercial object may become more important than the work itself. The book has ceased to be primarily an encounter with a foreign intelligence. It has become a unit within a lifestyle. One buys a recognizable self. The object says, "I am thoughtful. I am literary. I am romantically melancholic. I read difficult women in old houses. I prefer morally gray men with excellent tailoring. I own the deluxe edition. I have placed it beside a candle whose fragrance is called Midnight Archive, though it mostly smells like vanilla and administrative grief. The modern book often arrives with a social costume sewn into its binding. This changes writing. A consumable must announce its function. It must be accessible, legible, emotionally predictable, and quickly satisfying. Difficulty begins to resemble a manufacturing defect. Ambiguity becomes suspicious, as though the author forgot to provide customer support. Chapters grow shorter because short chapters produce the feeling of speed. Familiar moral conclusions appear because recognition can be mistaken for understanding. Complex arguments are compressed into a single claim that can survive an interview, a promotional quotation, and a 30-second video. Literary fiction adopts the bedside manners of a sales clerk. The book begins to resemble a scented candle with acknowledgments. Serious literature survives. It always will. Human beings remain too strange, proud, wounded, and magnificent to stop writing serious books entirely. Yet serious literature becomes commercially awkward because it consumes time without respecting the release calendar. Proust is awkward because he refuses to hurry. Dante is awkward because he assumes the reader can remember where he has been. George Eliot is awkward because she keeps noticing that moral life is complicated. Melville is awkward because he interrupts a revenge story to explain Wales at the length of a minor government inquiry. These writers make demands. They expect surrender to rhythm, form, memory, and delay. Their books refuse to behave like consumables because the experience does not expire in time for the next release. A monastery presents the same commercial difficulty. It asks the visitor to stop going somewhere else. When reading loses an agreed purpose, the reader reaches for a number. This is understandable. Reading produces few visible signs of achievement. Comprehension cannot be displayed easily. Judgment develops slowly. A changed sensibility may reveal itself years later in a decision, a phrase, a refusal, a moment of restraint, or the sudden recognition of a pattern in another person's conduct. These effects resist measurement. Numbers behave much better. They can be posted, they can be compared, they can be ranked, they fit inside graphics, they can be announced in December with neat rows of miniature book covers. 20 books suggest respectable seriousness. 50 books imply discipline. 100 books announce that the reader has conquered time, defeated sleep, or developed a close relationship with audiobooks played at a speed normally reserved for auctioneers and medical disclaimers. The annual reading challenge converts literature into athletic mileage. The reader begins January with a numerical target. By late autumn, Virgil has become a threat to his statistics. A long Russian novel looks less like a work of art than a hostile act. Short books acquire the moral radiance of emergency rations. The count begins to govern selection. A book of 80 pages offers one completed unit. A book of 800 pages offers the same completed unit at 10 times the labor. Once reading becomes arithmetic, the short book becomes a bargain. This is performative reading. The performance can be sincere. The reader may love books. He may possess curiosity, discipline, and good intentions. He may begin the challenge as a means of protecting time from distraction. Yet visible measurement has a habit of taking command. The number was invited in as a servant. By March, it has moved into the master bedroom. The reader begins choosing shorter works. He avoids rereading because rereading does not raise the total. He resents demanding prose. He treats abandonment as failure. He feels guilty when a book takes too long. His relation to literature is governed by whether the current volume advances the count. The distinction between reading and having read becomes decisive. Having read a famous book creates social possession. The title can be mentioned, ranked, reviewed, photographed, and placed inside a public identity. It can be entered into an app. It can appear on a shelf beneath a small brass bust of Marcus Aurelius, who has become the patron saint of men with podcasts and unresolved scheduling problems. Reading the book is different. Reading requires submission to the work's pace. It may require 3 evenings spent on the same chapter. It may produce confusion without a shareable takeaway. It may force the reader to remain inside an argument he dislikes long enough to understand why it was made. Having read creates cultural capital. Reading may result in silence. The person who has read Proust can list Proust among completed works. The person reading Proust may disappear for a year and return with a changed understanding of jealousy, memory, habit, status, and the cruel intelligence of drawing rooms. One activity can be entered into a ledger. The other alters the architecture of perception. Literature begins where the scoreboard becomes embarrassing. The modern reading ledger has an older ancestry. The secular reading challenge did not emerge from nowhere. It inherited part of its moral structure from devotional counting. The Protestant Reformation placed immense weight upon personal access to Scripture. That emphasis helped spread literacy, schooling, translation, household reading, and the conviction that ordinary Christians should encounter the biblical text directly. The historical benefits were immense. Men and women learned to read because words mattered. Families gathered around a text. Children were taught letters through sacred language. The Bible entered the home with moral authority. Literacy became a duty rather than an ornament of rank. Yet every strength casts a particular shadow. Once personal reading becomes a central sign of religious seriousness, the act becomes vulnerable to measurement. Chapters can be counted. Verses can be memorized. Daily sessions can be tracked. Consecutive days can be marked. Annual reading plans can be completed. These numbers offer visible evidence of discipline. They reassure the reader that something has occurred. The boxes are checked. The pages have been crossed. The plan has been completed according to schedule. The soul may remain untouched. A man can read the Bible every year for 20 years and emerge with the same vanity, cowardice, resentment, cruelty, and appetite for domination that he possessed at the beginning. He has passed through Scripture repeatedly. Scripture has failed to pass through him. The ledger reports victory. This is the danger of textual mileage. Contact is mistaken for formation. Repetition may deepen understanding, yet repetition may also harden familiarity into blindness. A passage heard too often can become inaudible. The words retain their shape while losing their force. The reader sees the sentence and no longer receives its demand. Older Christian reading belonged to a larger form of life. Scripture was encountered through commentary, worship, discipline, prayer, inherited interpretation, moral struggle, and communal memory. The text stood inside an order of formation. Modern habits often extract the reading from that order and preserve the count. The doctrine fades. The paperwork remains. Secular book culture inherits the skeleton. The annual total replaces the completed Bible plan. The shelf photograph replaces the family Bible. Literary seriousness becomes a private election certified by numbers. The modern reader has no bishop, but he has analytics. Social media gives this system a stage. The platform rewards evidence that a book was present. It cannot easily reward evidence that a mind was changed. Reading has always possessed a social element. Readers recommend books. They form circles. They write criticism. They quote passages. They argue over interpretation. They discover friends through shared admiration and enemies through differing opinions about Henry James. Literature creates communities because language allows one mind to meet another across time. The platform changes the terms of the meeting. A shelf can be photographed in seconds. A stack of books can become a declaration of class, taste, politics, temperament, or aspiration. The reader arranges the objects. He adjusts the lamp. He places coffee nearby. He opens a notebook to a page of decorative handwriting. A pair of spectacles rests upon the volume, despite the minor technical difficulty that he used them to arrange the scene. The phone taking the picture remains outside the frame. Every religion conceals its machinery. The image communicates before the books are opened. It says contemplation. It says seriousness. It says interior life. It says that this person spends evenings in intimate conversation with the dead, rather than watching strangers argue about dishwasher etiquette in a comment section. The aesthetic is powerful because modern life is starved of interiority. A library suggests depth. An annotated page suggests attention. A worn binding suggests fidelity. A stack of classics suggests that the owner has escaped the mental texture of the feed. These signs may be true. They may also become substitutes. A person can acquire the appearance of contemplation without enduring contemplation's inconvenience. The costume arrives first. The character is expected to follow at some polite future date, usually Tuesday. The platform favors accumulation because accumulation photographs well. 10 books in a stack communicate abundance. One book read slowly produces little visual novelty. A serious reader may disappear from the feed for 3 weeks and return with a troubling observation about a minor character. The performer posts daily. The serious reader has little new material because he is still reading the same novel. The performer has new material because he has acquired 3 editions of it. Under this order, a book is consumed twice. First as an image. later, perhaps, as a text. The first consumption is commercially sufficient. The photograph can move copies, the edition can sell, the identity can be displayed, the cycle can continue without the prose ever accomplishing its deeper work. This helps explain a strange feature of the present age. Book culture can remain highly visible while reading itself weakens. The external signs survive because they are attractive. Libraries remain beautiful. Old bindings remain beautiful. Margins filled with handwriting remain beautiful. A woman reading beside a window remains beautiful. A man carrying a battered volume on a train retains a quiet dignity that no tablet advertisement has managed to reproduce. Yet the image of reading can detach from the act. Once detached, it becomes merchandise. Speed completes the damage. A reader who fears delay will never enter a book deeply enough to be judged by it. Literature is made of relations unfolding through time. A sentence gains meaning from the sentences around it. An image gathers force through recurrence. A character's early gesture may become intelligible 200 pages later. A phrase first encountered casually may return with terrible weight near the end. Memory binds the work. Anticipation tightens it. Rhythm carries it. Form gives order to everything that occurs. Speed breaks these relations. The hurried reader searches for extractable content. He wants the argument, lesson, quotation, plot, verdict, or usable principle. He approaches a novel like a damaged shipment from which several serviceable items might still be recovered. Everything that cannot be summarized begins to look ornamental. Yet literature lives where summary weakens. A summary of King Lear can explain what happens. An aging king divides his territory among his daughters, misjudges love, loses authority, descends into madness, and discovers too late the difference between flattery and devotion. The facts are accurate. The experience is absent. The summary cannot reproduce the storm. It cannot make language strip authority from a man until he stands exposed before creation. It cannot reproduce the growing horror of recognition, the old king holding the dead body of the child he finally learned to love properly. Summary gives the bones. Literature gives the wound. The hesitation in a sentence matters. The return of an image matters. The silence between two characters matters. The delay before a confession matters. The proportion of the whole matters. A work of literature is more than information dressed for dinner. Its form carries thought. The demand for faster reading therefore becomes a demand for less literature. Speed reading systems promise access without duration. Summaries promise possession without surrender. Extracts promise insight without context. Videos promise that the important parts have been isolated in advance by a friendly stranger with a ring light. The reader is offered the book's conclusions after the book itself has been removed. This works reasonably well for certain kinds of information. A manual can be condensed, a report can be abstracted, a simple argument can be stated plainly. A great novel resists. Its resistance is part of its dignity. The page cannot scroll itself. It waits. It has the quiet hostility of an unpaid magistrate. Whole books matter because formation occurs through sustained contact with order. An excerpt gives material. A whole book imposes proportion. The reader must remember what came before. He must endure passages whose purpose remains unclear. He must hold judgment. He must permit the work to construct its own standards before measuring it against his own. That takes time. The slow reader completes fewer books. He meets more of what each book contains. The rapid reader reaches the final page first. The book arrives later and finds nobody home. Accumulation then produces a peculiar kind of ignorance. A library can become a monument to encounters that never occurred. When books are consumed in rapid sequence, each displaces the last before memory has settled. Names, arguments, scenes, images, and phrases enter the mind, remain briefly, then are pushed aside by the next object. The reader retains a haze of familiarity. He knows he has read the book. He remembers the cover. He remembers its reputation. He remembers whether the approved people praised it. He remembers which political faction claimed it. He remembers where it belongs in the historical sequence. He may struggle to reconstruct its argument. He may be unable to explain why the form mattered. He possesses the reference without possessing the thought. This is educated ignorance. It can sound impressive. It often does. The reader recognizes signals. He can place works inside categories. He can mention titles at speed. He knows the standard interpretations and the approved objections. Yet he has not lived inside the work long enough to judge between them. He can identify the furniture. He has never inhabited the house. Modern culture rewards this condition because breadth increases conversational reach. A person who has read widely can enter more discussions. He can mention more writers. He can join more debates. He can make more references. The person who reads deeply may return to the same few works for years. This looks unimpressive until he speaks. Then the difference appears. One reader has collected titles. The other has acquired judgment. Quantity thrives because it permits comparison. Schools can count pages. Platforms can count completions. Publishers can count sales. Readers can count books. None of these measurements can determine whether wisdom occurred. A civilization can publish millions of books while losing the habits required to read one book well. Production can outrun attention. Warehouses can grow while memory shrinks. The shelves fill. The mind thins. This is the kingdom of quantity. Everything becomes legible through arithmetic. Value is translated into scale. More titles, more pages, more releases, more sales, more completed books, more reactions, more reviews, more visible participation. The system does not need to hate literature. It only needs to measure something else. Once the measure governs the activity changes to suit the measure. Books become shorter because completion is rewarded. Chapters become smaller because movement must be felt. Ideas become simpler because circulation rewards clarity without depth. Readers become faster because totals confer status. Publishers produce more because attention must be captured before it moves elsewhere. The whole structure accelerates. No single actor controls it. Everyone is responding sensibly to incentives, which is often how absurd systems achieve such impressive stability. The publisher needs sales. The retailer needs turnover. The platform needs engagement. The reader needs visible proof. The author needs attention. Each participant behaves reasonably. Together they create a machine that can manufacture endless books while weakening the conditions of reading. The deeper problem concerns the formation of the person. A tool must be judged by what it forms in the hand that uses it. A reading app forms one kind of attention. A yearly counter forms another. A paper book, read in silence with a pencil, forms another still. The question is not whether one format is morally pure. Purity is a poor guide to ordinary life. The question is, what habits gather around the tool? Does it train patience? Does it strengthen memory? Does it deepen speech? Does it make silence bearable? Does it teach the reader to submit to an order he did not design? Does it sharpen desire or scatter it? The modern reading system often forms restlessness. It teaches the reader to think of attention as throughput. It turns memory into storage. It turns judgment into reaction. It turns the book into content. It turns the self into a public project requiring frequent documentary evidence. The reader begins to treat his own mind like a warehouse. Books enter. Books leave. Inventory rises. Nothing is examined for damage. The person becomes a logistics manager of his own interior life. This is why the problem cannot be solved by scolding people for posting attractive bookshelves or enjoying special editions. Beauty matters. A fine binding can honor a work. A well-made book can invite care. A room lined with books can shape a household across generations. Material things bear meaning. The problem begins when the sign replaces the act. A beautiful edition should deepen reverence for reading. It should not release the owner from reading. A library should serve memory. It should not become a stage set for intelligence. A reading list should guide attention. It should not become a moral census. The object must lead toward encounter. Otherwise, the book becomes a relic of a faith no longer practiced. One can see the larger civilizational pattern here. Modern societies possess immense powers of production and weak powers of reception. We can create more images than anyone can see, more music than anyone can hear, more commentary than anyone can consider, and more books than anyone can read. The abundance is real. So is the poverty. Our systems excel at making things available. They struggle to form people capable of receiving them. A civilization may own every classic in inexpensive editions and lose the patience to read a paragraph. It may digitize entire libraries and forget how to sit alone. It may place the collected wisdom of centuries inside a pocket and train the owner to touch the screen every 11 seconds. Access expands. Attention contracts. The contradiction is almost comic. Humanity built the largest library in history, then entered it carrying a machine designed to interrupt every sentence. The older reader faced scarcity. He had too few books. The modern reader faces abundance without hierarchy. He has too many books, too many recommendations, too many lists, too many voices insisting that a new title is essential. Scarcity required preservation. Abundance requires judgment. Judgment cannot be purchased in bulk. It grows through long contact with worthy things. That is why rereading carries such power. Rereading rejects the commercial cycle at its root. No new object is purchased. No annual total rises. No fresh title enters the photograph. The reader returns to the same work. From the market's view, nothing happened. From the reader's view, the real event has begun. The book is the same. The reader is not. He encounters sentences he missed. A character once dismissed now appears tragic. A passage once admired now seems shallow. A minor image opens into a chamber of meaning. The book has acquired rooms. Of course, the rooms were always there. The reader had not yet become capable of entering them. Rereading reveals that books are partly measured by the life brought back to them. A young man reads King Lear and sees a foolish king. A father reads it and sees a wound. An old man reads it and hears time approaching down the corridor. The text has not changed. Life has supplied the missing commentary. This is one reason great books remain great. They do not exhaust themselves in a single encounter. They wait for the reader to acquire sorrow, responsibility, failure, love, regret, and age. The consumable book promises an experience. The great book becomes a companion to experience. One is completed. The other remains. The recovery of reading begins when counting ends. This does not require theatrical austerity. Nobody needs to burn the reading journal, smash the phone, and retreat to a stone hut with Plotinus. The stone hut probably has poor heating, and Plotinus is not improved by chilblains. The change is quieter. Read one book without announcing it. Stay with it after the first difficulty. Reread a sentence without shame. Allow a chapter to take an evening. Leave space after finishing. Let memory settle before replacing it. Abandon a bad book when judgment requires it. The consumer feels compelled to finish because completion validates the purchase and advances the count. The reader owes loyalty to truth, beauty, and depth rather than sunk cost. Some books deserve a year. Others deserve 40 pages and a quiet return to the shelf. Equality among books is a superstition spread by shelving. A better reading life also needs ritual. Modern people often claim to have escaped ritual while arranging their days through repeated gestures, sacred objects, initiation rites, penalties, symbols, and public confessions. The rituals remain. They have merely acquired user interfaces. Performative reading is one such ritual. It initiates the reader into measurable selfhood. The annual target gives the year a moral structure. The completed count grants a sense of purification. The public graphic serves as testimony. The comments provide recognition from the congregation. The theology has changed. The human need has not. A better ritual can replace it. Read at the same hour. Keep a pencil near the book. Copy a passage by hand. Discuss one work across several weeks. Memorize language worth carrying. Return to a poem until its rhythm enters speech. Leave one evening empty enough for a difficult chapter. These are small acts. They restore weight because they bind the text to memory, body, place, and time. The page gains an hour. The hour gains a form. The reader gains a habit. A habit becomes character. The aim is not to become a more impressive reader. It is to become a person capable of receiving literature. That person is patient enough to hear a voice unlike his own. He is humble enough to misunderstand before understanding. He can tolerate ambiguity. He can carry a question without rushing toward a slogan. He can remain with a character whose motives trouble him. He can recognize beauty without immediately turning it into content. He becomes harder to manipulate because his attention has acquired depth. He becomes harder to flatter because he has heard greater voices. He becomes harder to hurry because he has learned that meaning unfolds at its own pace. He becomes less eager to display intelligence because he has encountered minds before which display looks childish. This is what serious reading forms. The free market can place the book in his hand. It cannot open the inner room. The publisher can print the sentence. The retailer can deliver it. The platform can make the cover visible. The reader must still become quiet enough to receive it. Return to the table. The book remains open beneath the lamp. The reader is still halfway down the paragraph. He has not advanced far. His yearly total has not changed. Nobody has applauded. No image has been posted. The warehouse has received no new signal. He reads the sentence again. This time, something shifts. A phrase that seemed obscure begins to gather shape. It touches another passage from 50 pages earlier. A character's gesture returns. The book's order becomes faintly visible, like the outline of a building emerging through rain. The reader lowers his hand. He looks away from the page for a moment. The room is the same. He is not. The kingdom of quantity asks how many books passed through the reader. Literature asks whether the reader passed through one book and emerged with a different soul. A grand world awaits.